What should have been a healing family vacation concluded with 4 lifeless bodies and a legacy shattered beyond repair. The gentle Hawaiian waves that once carried laughter now whisper only of betrayal and bloodshed. Have you ever wondered how swiftly heaven can transform into hell? How those closest to our hearts can betray us in ways we cannot fathom? How a single moment of weakness can set into motion a sequence of events that destroys everything you hold dear? The islands of Hawaii represent serenity and renewal to most. Azure waters, embracing volcanic shores, fragrant plumeria blossoms dancing on warm breezes, and sunsets that paint the sky in impossible hues of orange and pink. Yet beneath this mesmerizing beauty, the Kahele family brought darkness with them, jealousy, resentment, and desires that should have remained buried. Their luxury villa, perched on the cliffs near Hanalei Bay, became the stage for an unthinkable tragedy. Far from prying eyes and helpful intervention, isolation that initially promised privacy instead provided the perfect conditions for catastrophe. The contrast could not have been more stark, noted Detective Kapuna during the subsequent press conference. Outside those walls, absolute beauty. Inside, absolute horror. This story will take you through each critical moment, from the first inappropriate glance to the final gunshot. We will examine the psychological breakdown that transformed a respected financial advisor into a family annihilator. We will trace how small betrayals grew into unspeakable violence. By the conclusion of this account, you will recognize the warning signs that everyone missed, signals that might save lives if identified early enough. You will understand how emotional neglect, betrayal, and shame combined to create the perfect storm within one seemingly normal family. Before we continue, please consider subscribing to Criminal Mind Cortex. Each week, we analyze cases that reveal crucial patterns of human behavior. Your subscription supports our work, uncovering stories that could potentially save relationships or even lives. Click subscribe now, then prepare yourself for a journey into the darkest corners of paradise. The Kaheles appeared flawless to neighbors in their exclusive Honolulu neighborhood. Their social media profiles showcased enviable family vacations, perfectly coordinated holiday portraits, and children with perpetual smiles. Yet beneath this carefully cultivated image lurked profound dysfunction that no filter could conceal. Kailehua Kahele, 32, carried herself with quiet dignity despite the sorrow that frequently clouded her expression. Born to a humble fisherman and dedicated schoolteacher, she had absorbed Hawaiian values that prioritized family above individual desires, principles that would eventually contribute to her downfall. She always seemed slightly removed from her own life, her closest friend later told investigators, as if she were watching herself from a distance, never fully present in her happiness. Her husband Nahoku projected success and confidence as a financial advisor whose charm masked increasing emotional absence. His clients entrusted him with millions of dollars, yet he failed to invest time in his most valuable asset, his family. Colleagues described him as brilliant but distant, a man whose mind constantly calculated the next career move while personal connections withered. He built financial security while creating emotional bankruptcy at home, one associate observed. Pohaku, Nahoku's father, had moved into their spacious home, following his retirement from 25 years on the police force. The arrangement appeared logical. The respected former officer would assist with childcare, while providing wisdom and stability to the household. Instead, his commanding presence created invisible power struggles, as boundaries between father, son, and daughter-in-law blurred dangerously. The children, 6-year-old Moana and 4-year-old Kanuha, remained blissfully unaware of the fractures forming in their family foundation. Moana's infectious laughter and Kanuha's thoughtful questions represented the only authentic elements in a household increasingly constructed on performance rather than genuine connection. Every weekend outing, school function, and neighborhood barbecue became an opportunity to project an image of harmony. Neighbors commented on their apparent perfection, never suspecting the tensions simmering beneath polished surfaces. The perfect family photograph concealed 4 ticking time bombs. While they posed for Christmas cards and birthday celebrations, resentment, loneliness, and unacknowledged desires silently counted down toward inevitable explosion. "We need this," Nahoku insisted while booking the secluded villa near Hanalei Bay. "A fresh beginning for all of us." The property appeared as though lifted directly from a travel magazine positioned on a cliff, overlooking emerald waters, surrounded by lush vegetation promising complete privacy and renewal, located miles from the nearest neighbors, accessible only via a winding private road. The isolation initially seemed therapeutic, but would later prove deadly. The family arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, greeted by sunshine filtering through palm fronds. A property manager provided a brief tour before handing over the keys, noting, "You will have absolute privacy here. No one will disturb you." How prophetic those words would become. For the first 3 days, the magic of Kauai appeared to work its healing power. The family hiked to hidden waterfalls, where Moana and Keanuhua splashed in crystalline pools. They constructed sandcastles on beaches unmarked by other footprints. They shared meals on the lanai as the sun transformed the Pacific into molten gold. Nahoku even disconnected from his phone temporarily. Local guides who interacted with the family noted nothing unusual. They seemed like any other family on vacation, one later recalled. The parents took photographs of the children playing. The grandfather pointed out native birds and plants. Normal tourist behavior. Yet careful observers might have noticed subtle warning signs, how Kailahua's smile never fully reached her eyes, how Pohaku's protective glances toward her lingered uncomfortably, how Nahoku checked his phone with increasing frequency as days passed. Police investigators would later mark their location on maps, with a stark red circle highlighting the villa's complete seclusion from neighbors, passing vehicles, and potential witnesses. The very paradise they sought to heal within had become their perfect trap, a beautiful prison where their secrets could fester without intervention. The tranquility they chased could not cure what traveled with them. By the 5th night, familiar patterns had reasserted themselves. Within the luxurious villa, Nahoku retreated to the study, citing an emergency client situation, requiring immediate attention. The children slept peacefully, their dreams untouched by adult complications. Kailahua found herself alone on the lanai, watching moonlight shimmer across distant waves. Pohaku joined her with 2 glasses of wine. "He has always been like this," he said, referencing his son. "Even as a child, always somewhere else in his thoughts." The warm evening air, combined with the wine and profound isolation, created dangerous conditions for confession. Kailahua's tears fell as she acknowledged the emptiness of her marriage. She described maintaining appearances for her children while suffering crushing loneliness that followed her even to this beautiful island. "Sometimes I feel invisible in my own life," she whispered. "No one truly sees me anymore." "I see you," Pohaku replied, his hand covering hers. The touch lingered beyond appropriate boundaries. Their eyes met with recognition of mutual desire, forbidden, destructive, yet momentarily irresistible. What happened next violated every family boundary. Their affair, born from shared loneliness and toxic proximity, lasted just 1 night. Yet that single night contained enough betrayal to destroy everything they claimed to value. "We must take this to our graves," they agreed afterward, shame eclipsing the temporary comfort they had found in each other's embrace. No one can ever know. They separated before dawn, returning to their respective rooms, convinced they could compartmentalize their actions. Both believed they could resume normal roles within the family, keeping their transgression buried beneath forced smiles and deliberate distance. "It was a mistake that will never happen again," Kailahua told herself, straightening her clothing and washing away physical evidence of betrayal. Pohaku, despite decades enforcing laws and boundaries, rationalized his actions through elaborate mental gymnastics. "My son neglected her for years. She deserved comfort. No one will be hurt if no one discovers the truth." Such self-deception exemplifies how intelligent adults justify destructive choices when isolated from normal social constraints. Their rationalization that secrecy equals harmlessness would prove catastrophically wrong. Have you ever witnessed someone justifying clearly wrong actions? Share your thoughts below about how isolation and emotional neglect can lead otherwise reasonable people toward destructive decisions that ultimately harm everyone involved. They might have preserved their secret if Nahoku had not forgotten his laptop charger during a solo hike the following day. His unexpected return to the villa was greeted by suspicious silence. Following hushed voices to the garden, he positioned himself behind flowering hibiscus bushes, initially intending only to announce his presence. Then he heard the words that shattered his world. "We need to be careful," Pahaku was saying. "Last night was a mistake," Kalahua finished. "But also, I know," his father replied softly. "I felt it too." Nahoku froze, unable to process the implications. His mind refused to connect the fragments of conversation into their obvious conclusion. The world narrowed to a tunnel of disbelief as oxygen seemed to evaporate from his lungs. Psychologists recognize 3 distinct phases of betrayal trauma. First comes shock and disbelief, the mind's defense mechanism against overwhelming pain. Second arrives emotional flooding, rage, grief, and humiliation colliding in unbearable intensity. Third emerges obsessive analysis, the compulsive need to reconstruct events and understand what was missed. Nahoku experienced all 3 phases simultaneously. His breathing became shallow, his vision clouded at the edges. The foundation of his identity collapsed into incomprehensible fragments. His wife and his father. His father and his wife, the 2 people he trusted most, had conspired against him in the most intimate betrayal possible. He retreated undetected, the information too devastating to confront immediately. Throughout the remainder of that day, he observed them with hyper-vigilant awareness, noting every glance, analyzing every interaction, reinterpreting past moments through this new horrifying lens. "Would anyone like more water?" Kalahua asked at dinner. "Is that how she spoke to my father last night?" "Beautiful sunset," Pahaku commented. "Were they watching it together while I worked?" Each ordinary interaction became evidence of conspiracy. Each casual touch between them triggered fresh waves of nausea. His children's innocent laughter now sounded like mockery. They too were victims of this betrayal, though they remained ignorant of their parents' destruction. That night, after the household settled into silence, Nahoku accessed the villa's security system, a precaution he had insisted upon due to the property's isolation. Scrolling backward through footage, he located what he both dreaded and needed, indisputable evidence of the betrayal. The timestamp read 2:15 in the morning. The infrared camera captured clear images of his father and wife embracing on the lanai, moving inside together, emerging separately hours later. He watched the footage repeatedly, his psyche fracturing with each viewing. By sunrise, something fundamental had broken within him, something that could never be repaired. 3 days, he whispered to the empty room. 3 days, until we leave this island. How long? Nahoku demanded the next evening, cornering Kalahua in their bedroom after ensuring the children were occupied with a movie. Her face drained of color. "What are you? Do not." His control slipped momentarily before he forced himself back to frightening composure. "I saw you, both of you. The security cameras captured everything." The confession tumbled out between Kailahua's sobs. "Just once. A terrible mistake, born from years of emptiness and neglect." "You were never truly present," she whispered. "Not emotionally. Not for years." "So you slept with my father?" The calm in his voice contrasted with the violent trembling of his hands. "The man who raised me, in our family vacation home, while our children slept." Pahaku discovered them mid-confrontation, his police training evident in how he positioned himself, calculating distances, evaluating threats, hands visible and non-threatening. "Son, this situation is not what you believe. You cannot call me that anymore." Nahoku's voice had flattened, emotion giving way to something colder and more methodical. "Not after what you did in my home, with my wife, while my children slept down the hall." "The children," Kailawa pleaded through tears. "Please think about Moana and Kianoa. They need their family whole."
"Family?"
Nahoku laughed, a hollow sound entirely devoid of humor. "What family remains? Everything I believed real was fabricated." The room fell silent except for Kailahua's muffled crying. Outside, paradise continued indifferently. Palm fronds rustled in gentle breezes. Waves crashed against distant shores. Tourists captured sunset photographs, unaware of the implosion occurring behind villa walls. "We can address this situation," Pahaku insisted, falling back on his conflict resolution training. "People overcome worse. For the children's sake, we must find a path forward."
No, Nahoku replied with disturbing finality. Some betrayals cannot be forgiven.
Kalahua noticed a transformation in her husband's eyes. The warm brown had hardened into something unrecognizable. The man who had courted her, fathered her children, built their life together, had vanished. Someone else looked through those familiar eyes now. "Please," she whispered, "the children will be fine," he interrupted. "Everything will be resolved before we leave." How would you respond if your world collapsed without warning? Would you seek healing or retribution? Share your thoughts below on whether such profound betrayal can ever truly be forgiven, or if some actions permanently destroy what was once precious. Their last dinner in paradise unfolded like somber theater. Kalahua prepared traditional Hawaiian dishes, as if carefully arranged food could somehow bridge the chasm that had opened between them. The children, sensing tension but unable to comprehend it, remained unusually quiet, their customary laughter absent from the table. "Pass the salt, please," Nahoku requested, his politeness more disturbing than anger would have been. His mechanical movements, precise and controlled, revealed nothing of the chaos consuming his thoughts. After tucking the children into bed, whispering goodnights and promises of returning home tomorrow, Nahoku moved with deliberate purpose toward his father's room. Among Pohaku's belongings, he located what his subconscious had been seeking, the retired officer's service weapon, maintained out of professional habit and secured in a lockbox. Nahoku had memorized the combination years earlier, watching his father's fingers move across the keypad countless times during childhood. Psychology identifies clear warning signs that preceded this critical turning point. First came the unusual calmness following emotional devastation. Nahoku's controlled demeanor replaced his initial shock and rage. Second emerged methodical behavior. His movements became precise, his speech measured and deliberate. Third appeared fatalistic comments regarding the future, subtle references to resolution and endings. Fourth developed fixation on means of harm, his awareness of the weapon's location and security measures. Fifth manifested the belief that complete destruction offered the only acceptable solution, his inability to envision any future beyond annihilation. No one recognized these indicators in time. No intervention disrupted his progression toward violence. At 11:42 in the evening, neighbors half a mile distant reported hearing what they assumed were fireworks or perhaps a vehicle backfiring. By the time police reached the remote villa, responding to Nahoku's own emotionless telephone call, 4 lives had concluded, and countless others would forever bear the scars of that night. "I should have seen it coming," the property manager later told reporters. "When I delivered fresh towels that afternoon, he thanked me for everything like someone saying a final goodbye. I just thought he was being polite." In those quiet hours, as stars shone indifferently over paradise, violence erupted with cold precision in the isolated villa. "I have done something terrible," Nahoku told the 911 operator in a voice devoid of emotion. "Please send officers to the Makana Villa on Hanalei Cliff Road. They are all gone. I am waiting on the front porch." Police arrived 17 minutes later to find him seated calmly, the weapon placed carefully on the ground beside him. His hands rested on his knees, palms upward in a posture of surrender. He offered no resistance as officers approached with caution, their flashlights cutting through darkness to illuminate his expressionless face. Inside, authorities discovered a scene that challenged even experienced homicide detectives. "In 20 years investigating homicides, I have never witnessed such methodical execution," the lead detective later testified during grand jury proceedings. Each victim was positioned with deliberate care, suggesting a mind completely detached from normal human emotion. Forensic analysis revealed the sequence of events with clinical precision. Pohaku died first, a single shot from his own service weapon while he slept. Kalahua apparently awakened at the sound and attempted to reach the children's rooms, but never succeeded. The children died peacefully in their beds, likely unaware of the horror unfolding throughout the house. Media organizations descended upon the island within hours of the news breaking. Headlines across Hawaii and eventually the mainland proclaimed "Paradise destroyed. Betrayal leads to family tragedy," and "Vacation horror. Financial advisor eliminates entire family." Journalists combed through the Kahi's seemingly perfect life, uncovering financial records, interviewing neighbors, and constructing timelines of the family's final days. Social media photographs of their vacation, posted just days before the murders, became haunting artifacts of a family on the edge of destruction. "They looked so happy in those beach photos," one neighbor told reporters. "How could anyone have known what would happen next?" The investigation revealed no history of domestic violence complaints, no previous police incidents at their Honolulu residence, no documented mental health concerns. Their financial situation appeared stable, with significant savings and minimal debt. "This case defies simple explanation," the prosecuting attorney acknowledged at a press conference. "The tragedy here stems from emotional wounds, not material circumstances. Family annihilation, the murder of multiple family members, typically by a father or husband, follows recognizable patterns that mental health professionals have studied extensively. The Kahele case exemplifies what psychologists identify as the betrayed destroyer category, where perceived betrayal triggers a catastrophic response. The perpetrator's sense of self becomes so deeply intertwined with family identity that destruction of the family becomes equivalent to self-destruction," explains Dr. Amelia Kaneshiro, forensic psychologist specializing in family violence. "When that identity faces threat, especially through sexual betrayal involving a trusted figure, the resulting shame can become completely overwhelming." 5 crucial lessons emerged from this tragedy. First, isolation magnifies emotional crises. The Kahele's remote location removed social safeguards and potential witnesses who might have noticed warning signs. "Troubled families need community connection, not seclusion," notes Dr. Kaneshiro. "Isolation creates perfect conditions for unchecked emotional escalation." Second, emotional neglect creates vulnerability to inappropriate connections. Kalahia's years of loneliness within her marriage created emotional hunger that clouded judgment. Meaningful relationships require consistent emotional presence, not merely physical proximity. Third, rigid concepts of family honor can become destructive when challenged. Nahoku's inability to envision life beyond his perfect family image prevented him from considering recovery options like therapy, separation, or divorce. Fourth, children become overlooked victims in adult conflicts. Moana and Keanoha lost their lives not through any fault of their own, but because their father could not separate their existence from his shattered marriage. Fifth, access to weapons during emotional crisis dramatically increases danger. The presence of Pohaku's service weapon, though secured, provided immediate means to translate emotional pain into physical violence. This tragedy was not fundamentally about infidelity, Dr. Kaneshiro emphasizes. It represents a catastrophic collapse of identity and purpose, when confronted with inescapable evidence that one's core beliefs about family were false. Mental health professionals now use the Kahele case in training programs, helping therapists, law enforcement, and social workers recognize early indicators of family violence risk, particularly following discovery of infidelity or other profound betrayals. Today, a small memorial garden stands near Hanale Bay, though not at the actual crime scene. The villa was eventually sold, completely renovated, and given a new name, its tragic history disclosed to new owners, but forgotten by most visitors seeking Hawaiian tranquility. The Kahele massacre prompted Hawaii to strengthen domestic violence intervention protocols, particularly recognizing how family dynamics can mask dangerous power imbalances. Local support groups now specifically address emotional isolation in seemingly perfect marriages, where public image conceals private suffering. "We examine warning signs differently now," explains Honolulu Police Department Family Crisis Coordinator Leilani Kakoa. "Financial stability and social standing no longer reassure us. We focus instead on emotional connection and power dynamics within relationships." The greatest tragedy remains what might have been. Had Nahoku sought professional help, rather than revenge? Had Kailahua addressed her loneliness before it led to betrayal? Had Pahoku maintained appropriate boundaries, 4 lives might have continued, and countless others remained unmarked by grief. "The ocean remembers no tears shed upon it," goes a Hawaiian saying. But communities remember, and hopefully learn. The children, Moana and Keanoha, represent the most heartbreaking aspect of this case. Their potential vanished in a single night of violence they never comprehended. Their school established scholarships in their names, ensuring something positive might emerge from senseless loss. If you experience relationship betrayal, emotional isolation, or thoughts of harm, please contact the National Crisis Helpline at 988 or text HOME to 741741. No family situation stands beyond help before violence occurs. Relationship experts emphasize 5 protective factors that might have prevented this tragedy. Maintaining social connections, even during family retreats. Seeking professional help immediately following betrayal discovery. Removing weapons from homes during emotional crises. Prioritizing children's safety above all other concerns. Recognizing that healing remains possible, even after profound betrayal. If today's story impacted you, please like this video and subscribe to Criminal Mind Cortex. Your engagement helps us reach others with these crucial lessons. Next week, we examine another case where subtle warning signs preceded catastrophe, signs that once recognized could save lives. Remember, understanding human behavior at its darkest moments serves not morbid curiosity, but prevention, healing, and hope. The true power of these stories lies in their ability to protect future families from similar fates.